in this week's episode.
Now is the time to not give up on ads. Now is the time to really double down and understand how ads work, because there'll be an advantage in the future to you having that residual background knowledge and everybody else throwing it into the same amorphous AI map. And what will happen is, I think at the beginning, it'll go great guns. It'll improve the efficiency of your campaigns, but then it will level the playing field and everyone's doing it, and that will come back down. And you'll need an edge on top of that. And I don't know what that edge is at the moment, but I do know now is not the time to go fully automated. Now is the time to really understand how the ads platform works.
The Indie Writers Club podcast is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Pro Writing Aid has been my go-to tool for revising and refining my writing since my first book. Built by writers for writers, it's more than just a grammar and spell checker. Pro Writing Aid helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. It can even provide on-demand developmental feedback on your entire manuscript with its new manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Get ahead of the competition by heading to prowritingaid.com. Sign up for free or use the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.
It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara Clare and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Hello and welcome to the Indie Writers Club. I'm James Blatch.
And I'm Cara Clare, and we are in two very different sort of times of day, aren't we? It's very, very dark for me, and it's midday for you.
As different, because I'm now only 5 hours away from you, because I've moved across the United States, to Florida. I've left the arid desert air behind. We're in the.
For those not watching it on YouTube, I just frowned at James's accent.
Yeah, Florida. It was a lovely daytime flight, actually, and you're watching the landscape change across America from that kind of... We were not too far away from the Grand Canyon, the sort of orangey, reddy brick, through to the swamps as you get greener across to the East Coast. And here we are in Florida. So I got myself a little Airbnb. I'm properly living the digital nomad age now. And I didn't know this area at all. It's Fort Lauderdale's down on the beach. So the beach is just along there. Which is good because there's like lines of restaurants and bars and stuff in the evening I can go out. And I went out last night. I got here quite late. I thought I'd just have a beer at this bar and then get a pizza and come back here and sleep, which I did. And at the bar, this single woman who, I say single, I mean, she was by herself, tattooed sleeved arms, quite young and attractive, started talking to me. And I went into full-on British panic mode. I mean, I didn't know... I know she was sharing so much. She's like and we had a lot in common. She's a service brat, like me. She had a very mixed up childhood. I just wanted to get everything. I just wanted to start again. It's why I'm here. I've just
Did you
moved
get Jill on the phone? Jill, I don't know what to do. A woman's talking to me.
Jill FaceTiming. Help. But I'm 58-year-old man. I can't believe for 1 second she was remotely. I don't think she was hitting on me. I think
maybe she was just being friendly. Yeah.
Well, we don't do that in Britain. We don't be friendly like that.
No, we don't. We really don't. We're terrible at it, aren't we? We actually, it always shocks me when I go to Canada because they're very friendly and it's always genuinely friendly. Like if they ask you, how are you? They're actually asking for an answer. And if you go, oh, I'm okay, they'll be like, what's wrong? Whereas we just we ask how people are and we don't really want an answer. We just want everyone to, be quiet.
These people haven't been brought up properly. I mean, you don't want to know how people are. And I don't, I'm going to stop going to Canada if they keep talking to me in the supermarket queues. I find that very disturbing. Actually, the north of England's the same. I talk to people each other up there as well. Anyway, it was quite funny. So Brittany, her name was. I mean, oh my God, Brittany, of course. Brittany. And I sort of said, I'll go now. And I went.
I hope you did it in that Mr. Bean voice. I got go now.
She might be there again tonight.
But it's a bit like people trying to talk to you at the gym because I've started swimming again lately and there's this one lady who she just goes, she was a member when I was a member at this gym 10 years ago and she hasn't aged a day and she's still going and she goes every day and she just goes for a chat. So I'm trying to swim lengths and I'm trying to improve my time and stuff and she's swimming along next to me going, hi, how are you, love? Are you having a nice day? And I'm like, oh my God, please. But I'm such a people pleaser. I find it hard not to talk back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so I've got my little area here. I'm here for a week. So I'm here for 6 days and my friend Jonathan arrives on the 15th, we go into a different hotel and we go on this cruise he's been invited on, which I'm his wife for. I'm hoping it's not a double bed in the cabin. And then I come back to the UK. Now we have an announcement, quite a big announcement about this podcast. I'm going to save it for the end of this podcast in a sort of cheap trick.
Tease.
Make you listen to the whole thing and we get to the end. So big announcement coming at the end of the podcast. We've got a few things just to pick up from, this is going to be a slightly bitty podcast, but a few things to pick up from AuthorNation and also an announcement from Amazon about a translation service.
Yes, we do. And I just wanted to mention very quickly, because remember we spoke about the Richard Osmond Do Book events, all of that kind of stuff a few weeks ago. And I had a couple of things over the weekend which made me think, God, he really doesn't have a clue. I know we knew he didn't have a clue, but even in terms of the experience of other trad authors who aren't massive celebrities. So the first one was that I was actually in my local Waterstones in Bury St Edmunds, and there was an author doing a signing there. And it was such a poorly signposted signing that I thought she was just somebody having a sit down in the middle of the shop to start with, next to a table, then realised and then felt horribly sorry for her because she just had this tiny table with her books. Nobody was speaking to her. Then when me and my sister went up to pay and somebody was actually buying one of her books, and the person behind the till said, "Oh, did you know they're here doing a signing? You can go and get it signed if you want." So they'd done absolutely nothing to push people towards it, to signpost it, to put any information out there. And it made me feel quite sad. And then I read an article on Substack by an author called Leigh Bardugo, who is a really, really big romantasy author. And she was talking about how basically she has participated in this myth about when you go trad, everything is suddenly fantastic because you go to all these book signings and you go on these tours around the country. And she said, like, if you look at her Instagram, there'll be pictures that look very impressive of her at a book signing. But what you don't see is that there was hardly anyone there to actually see her. Or you don't see the times that she turned up with her team to a bookstore to sign copies and they hadn't ordered any because they didn't expect anyone to buy any. So they'd gone there on request of the publisher to sign books. And actually there aren't any books to sign because the bookshop hasn't ordered any. And I just thought that is a much more realistic representation of what most traditionally published authors would encounter, rather than Richard Osmond's take of, go and do signings because you're going to get, hundreds of people coming out to see you. Being trad doesn't therefore equal a huge, huge audience coming to events to see you. You still have to actually be known in order to do that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? Because even big authors like Colleen Hoover and Andy Weir and Lucy Score. Lucy does fantastic book tours and fills theatres and gets queues going out the door, but she knows what it's like before that bit. Mm-hmm. She knows what it's like. Colleen and Andy Weir. Andy Weir is coming to AuthorNation next year. He'll know what it's like with your first Facebook ads and getting crickets when you're not getting stuff right and all the rest of it. Yeah. But somebody who's a big celebrity in his own country gets a deal and a big billboard poster campaign ahead of his first book. I think they'd sold the film rights before he'd written the book. Mm-hmm. That's not a realistic experience. And it's a very blind spot for him not to recognize that.
Yeah. And I think, I do read quite a lot of things that are just quite depressing at the moment about the state of trad and this very much, if you're an author or you're a creative, you just got to accept that you're going to be poor sort of narrative that's put out there. So it's not so much that, it's just actually making people aware that it's not necessarily the silver bullet, because I think still a lot of us, and me included, I've considered trad deals, going the hybrid route and that sort of thing. But really, we might not have a bookstore presence as indies, but everything else, we've got such better control over everything. And I would rather have all of that than put all of my control in someone else's hands and then have a disappointing experience where I turn up at a bookshop and no one's there to see me.
Yeah, I'd hate that. I felt a bit bad walking around Reader Nation, which is the reader event at the end of AuthorNation, where a couple of authors had queues and other authors sat by themselves. I always feel bad for them, but maybe it's just the time I was walking past. I'm sure they were busy.
Yeah, later. When I've done things like Rare, the romance authors and readers event, there are times when you're sat by yourself, and there are times when your table's absolutely heaving. But I'm sure I must have told you this. My absolute favourite moment at one of those was where I was in one of these lulls and there was no one had come to my table for ages. And I dispatched all my pre-orders and stuff, so it was kind of expected. And then this person in a wheelchair was being pushed over by the person who was helping them carry their books and everything. And it took a really long time for them to come over, kind of weaving through the crowd. And I was smiling and I was getting ready to do my whole thing. And their friend pushed them up to the table. And this person didn't even look at me, just looked at her friend and went, "Not this one, the other one, you idiot," and left without even saying hi. And I was like, but those are the priceless experiences that you have when you first start out, that you just can't replace them.
Richard Osman hasn't had. By the way, it's
No.
Osmond. I like the fact you call him Osmond, but it is Osmond. And
I know, I always put the D on the end.
I know you do sometimes say
know.
Osmond, but I like the idea that he's one of the Osmond's brothers. Like there's Bonnie and Jimmy, and then there was Richard. Never quite made it singing, so he's had to do other things. But
He really is the opposite of a singing brother, isn't he? He's too tall and geeky looking. Anyone watching on YouTube, my greyhound is here because he's very upset that I'm having to film this instead of cuddling him on the sofa.
I should say, I think I gave you, because we recorded sort of day one or day two of AuthorNation,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely felt much busier and buzzier than it did the year before. I was really excited for the organisers. And, the reader event, Annabelle Chase, who came along to our retreat, a member of our community, she sold out. She told me of her books, which was great.
Awesome. Yeah.
He wasn't the only one I know who cleared the table. So that's really good. And Willow, I forget Willow's surname. I don't know her very well. Willow Winters, she was the one with the biggest queue. I mean,
it could be Willow Winter. I have a habit of adding letters onto the end of people's names.
I think it might be Willow Winter, but I didn't really get a chance to speak to her, but I'd like to because she's doing great guns at the moment. Which brings me on to a couple of the things that we talked about at the conference that I still feel are developing areas. So one is AI automation with ads. So I thought by now that AI would have a sort of direct plug into Facebook ads and it would look at your product, it would generate images. Now, we're getting a scattergun approach to it. So within Facebook itself, it can generate images for you. It can generate copy for you. But it's only sort of basically going a little bit on what you've given it. And it looks at, some of the words you've used. And I noticed I was using some of the images for the first time for some Hello Books readers ads, and I got served one on my phone, and it was awful. It was like one of those.
Really?
It was one of those AI images we had a couple of years ago, where all the face was distorted when you look closely, and I thought, well, is it that thing where Meta aren't AI specialists; they're other specialists? So why don't you just use Midjourney? Why don't you plug in one of the specialist areas rather than do your own version where you've kind of gone back a few months? But anyway, so that's the case. But it's that constant monitoring of ads. I think it's coming. And I think when it comes, it's going to be huge because it will suddenly level the playing field. I think now is the time is not give up on ads. Now is the time to really double down and understand how ads work. Because there'll be an advantage in the future to you having that residual background knowledge and everybody else throwing it into the same amorphous AI map. And what will happen is, I think at the beginning, it'll go great guns. It'll improve the efficiency of your campaigns, but then it will level the playing field and everyone's doing it, and that will come back down. And you'll need an edge on top of that. I don't know what that edge is at the moment, but I do know now is not the time to go fully automated. Now is the time to really understand how the ads platform works. And we're already moving to a point now. The big thing I'd say is that your media, your image and your copy are the most important things now, more important than your targeting. It is effectively your targeting now because AI looks at that. The AI that does work in Facebook is the targeting, the Advantage Plus, they call it. So I think that's one thing that surprised me, that we still haven't had that breakthrough. We've still got a few companies coming along saying, oh, you can plug us into your Amazon ads and it automatically adjusts your bids and stuff. But that's quite a clunky system compared to what I'm envisaging, which is basically, here's my book and I want to spend £100 this month on Amazon ads. And I think that's
maybe
not
you
far
need
away.
to invent it, James. Maybe you need to invent this system. I think the thing that I wonder about AI managing your Facebook ads is that the way that Facebook seems to tell or consider whether an ad is successful is if it's getting views and cheap clicks and they don't know if it's converting. So I guess my worry, I think I would struggle to let go of control and give it to Meta to use their AI to do that, because I'd feel like, well, what if it gets the wrong audience? Like, for example, at the moment, my Facebook Reels, I actually had to turn off my sharing so that it doesn't share automatically to Facebook and they're just sticking on Instagram, because for some reason, Facebook is just pushing all of my Reels to men over the age of 60. And I'm getting loads of likes and comments and follows from people who are not my target audience at all. So that's probably the thing that needs to be fixed, which I guess would require some more collaboration with Amazon to actually know whether the ads are converting or not, and that's a judge of whether they're good, not just whether they're getting people to click on them.
Yeah, well, maybe that'll be internally within the Amazon ads ecosystem.
Yeah.
Step up the game. And so one of the things I'm doing, what I did this week last week was go around, listen to talks, speak to people, and make decisions about who's going to be saying what at SPS Live in June. But you know what's difficult about that is it's November
we don't
now.
know. Yeah.
I have no idea what we're going to be talking about in June, so I'm being really careful. I'm getting the right people in place. So I've got a couple of announcements of, I'm really delighted. In fact, this will be an announcement I haven't made to the SBF audience yet, that Becca Syme has agreed to come to SBS Live. So I'm really...
My goodness, I love her. If anybody doesn't know who Becca Syme is, she is the Clifton Strengths for Writers lady, and she is incredibly inspirational. Everything she says and does is incredible. And I think if you've got good speakers like that, it's not really going to matter if the industry has changed a bit, if things have shifted. They will adapt their talks to what's happening. Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I love Becca.
Yeah, so Becca, and there's a couple of others as well I'm just working with at the moment, but we're going to be able to announce soon. So, but I have said to them all, let's talk again in February and March. You know, let's see whether the lay of the land is at that stage. We'll put you down for a couple of talks. Becca will do 2 talks, I think. But what they're on, let's leave it open, because it's quite difficult as an organizer to do that, but I definitely need to do that. The other area that I sort of went there to find out more about and didn't get a lot more information on is influencing and influencers. It's an area, I think, for Vinci books that we're very interested in. I think for the romance authors listening to this, and romantasy and fantasy authors probably in particular, seems to be, we know how powerful book talk can be when it happens organically. Can you force that level of sort of success using paid influencers or not? I still haven't got my handle around that. And I guess the only way to do that is to pick a couple of the services. And I know I'm having a chat with meetcali.com next week.
Yes. So I'm using them for my next book launch. Obviously, I haven't used them yet. But so basically for my next launch, which is in February, I'm not doing any paid ads. I'm just doing organic marketing, and I'm going to be sending out PR boxes to influencers through the Cali platform. So it's a new platform specifically mainly aimed at romance writers. I think there are a few other genres on there, but primarily it's romance people who are using it at the moment. And you can kind of create a campaign. You say what genre you are, you say what tropes are in your book, you give an idea of whether you're giving away a free ebook or a print book or all of that kind of stuff. And then BookTokers can apply to join your campaign, and they all have a profile where they list how many followers they've got, and it links through to their TikTok profile so you can see their profile. And they can apply to you, or you can seek them out. So you can go through and you can search by how many followers, by all of that kind of stuff. So I'm really interested to see how that will go. And my aim for that is, my thinking is that I would rather have lots of smaller accounts doing this and posting so that it kind of seems organic, with people opening the PR boxes and putting their videos out there, rather than paying. For example, I know some book talk influencers charge up to like $2,500 just for one post. And for me, that feels like too big an amount of money to put into something when you can't guarantee that they're going to get the views. Because TikTok has changed, and we're not in the days of absolutely guaranteeing, even if you've got a massive platform, that you're going to get those 100K views. But I know I have spoken to authors, particularly in mafia romance, who do that, who do, they have the budgets because their budgets are high, because their income is high. And they pay for, particular bloggers, TikTokers, to put out these videos, and they're paying a couple of grand a time, and they say that they can see the spike in their sales straight after the influencer has posted. So I can't feedback on how it's going to work yet because I haven't done it yet, but we can definitely do an episode in February. I know a couple of authors as well who've done things like working with other creators You get a lot of cosplay people kind of trying to do collabs and stuff like that with their books and paying for things like that. Those ones, I don't know of anybody who has said that they've been successful in terms of book sales. But I think we are moving towards a time where we're just trying to get our book out there as much as possible. And I think we mentioned before that we need to take a bit more of a PR mindset to getting our book out there, where we might not necessarily be able to tie the results to one thing in particular, but kind of, in this instance, taking some lessons from trad and going, what do? They throw budget at it. They, especially in romance, they want the books out there on TikTok, everybody talking about them. And that's what they spend the bulk of their budget on. So that's the tactic that I'm trying to take.
Well, we had a talk from Abby Patrick about this area in Vegas. And she pointed out that, young people are voracious readers of books. And she sort of went through how much she reads, which is an incredible amount, and also how much she spends on books. And that is definitely a thing that's flying high at the moment. So I guess if you're writing romantasy, you're aiming at 18 to 30-year-olds. That is the area where you're going to feel some benefit if it's going to work. The other thing is a group called AuthorScale. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding that. It's way back to friends, isn't it? AuthorScale, operated out of Switzerland by Marvin and Christian, and they have a sort of semi-automated festival. It is an automated system that takes your content, takes your sort of manuscript, and creates content for you, which is a great thing for someone like me, because I really don't have the time. So I'm going to test that system, trial that system as well. They're coming to SBS Live as well.
Am I allowed to be frank about what I thought when I tried it?
You can, yes.
I tried it quite a while ago. And I think, so here's the thing. I think because I am experienced with TikTok, I know my books inside out. I know how to craft hooks on TikTok. I know what works. For me, it took too long to get the results that I wanted, because when I did it, it was quite clever, because it gives you like a first batch, and then you pick from those, and then it refines them, and then it refines them a bit more. So for me, because I'm experienced, I didn't find it very helpful. But I can imagine that if you are literally one of these people who is fresh to TikTok, not knowing what to do, like a lot of AI things, it can get you started. But I haven't tried it for a while, so I'll be interested to see what you think.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'll say a couple of things. First of all, you're not perhaps the typical audience, because you're already very into understanding the work. You're not somebody who's too busy and just doesn't know where to get started on TikTok, which I think is who this is aimed at.
Yeah, exactly.
And secondly, a few months is a long time in the AI world. I mean, I remember saying, 11 Labs a couple of years ago at London Book Fair, I said, it doesn't really work, does it? He said, when did you last try it? I said, probably October, November, and this was March. He said, try it again now. So the difference in 6 months was dramatic. So I know these guys are very enthusiastic. They take a lot of feedback, and I'm excited about trying it. So I'll give my feedback as well. I think I'm probably more the audience for it, and I suspect most people listening are more the audience for it, because we don't have that kind of time and capacity to do the level of TikToking that we need to do. So
yeah.
Let me give that a go, and I'll report back on that.
Yeah, although it might be useful for someone like me to try it and then feed back to them and be like, these are the things that you need to improve, because it's a bit like Pro Writing Aid's manuscript assessment. Think about how incredible that is now, and we wouldn't have even dreamed of having that a few, 6 months ago. So if they can get it to do something on that level, because the way that Pro Writing Aid's thing understands your manuscript is incredible to me, then there's no reason that it shouldn't work for TikTok.
Yeah. So I think they're going to sponsor the show. And I did say to them, I do separate the editorial they asked about being on stage. So I do, to Marvin's lovely guys, I do separate the editorial as very strictly editorial. What's good for authors is there. If we put you on stage, it's for that reason, not because we don't allow sponsors to buy stuff on stage. I'm really reinforcing that now by having a fairly robust discussion about their product, having just said, there you go. It wouldn't work any other way. If we were just regurgitating nice things about people because they paid us, this podcast would be useless. So I'm happy with that. But I'm going to try, and I'm excited about it, because the one thing I keep saying for like 2 years now is I need to be more regular on TikTok. Sounds a bit weird saying that.
Yeah, but I think that's a conversation that we have about social media a lot, is that I think people tend to be naturally inclined towards one thing or another. Like I'm trying to be more active on Instagram at the moment. And for me, it's like pulling teeth. I find it so difficult because it's just not, I don't know, it's just not a platform that I warm to. Whereas TikTok, I feel like I know what I'm doing. I can craft the hooks there quite quickly, quite easily. So I think everybody's different. And there's, I have paid recently for a template platform, a designer who releases batches of templates for your Instagram, which you can customize and everything in Canva, because I'm not very good at doing that part. So I think with all of us, we need to recognize which bits we're good at and then figure out how we can get the help to do the bits that we're not that good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. So I think they're the kind of bits and pieces from AuthorNation. I'm still processing some of the stuff. I've made some notes to write up for Vinci at some point. And we've got a few things to try. But it does feel to me like, there's things coming down the line. We've had the same sort of state of nation for 2 years now. And AI came along, made a lot of sudden changes, and nothing's really changed for 2 years, which feels to me like we're about to have another change. And so we'll see what happens in the future. But one thing I would say is don't feel too despondent about the ads platforms at the moment. The old adage of work in, work out is there. You need to, the more work you put in, the more you get out of it. And I'm sure that will hold us through these changes that are going to come soon.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I think we're on the cusp of things getting much, much better with ads. I think we're in a sticky point at the moment where AI is starting to come into play and it's not necessarily optimized yet. And so things are a bit weird. We're also in the run up to Christmas. So everybody needs to remember that. I saw somebody talking about that on TikTok earlier going, now is not the time to assume that your marketing isn't working because we've got Black Friday coming up at the end of November and then we're rolling straight into Christmas. So it's not the time to throw everything out the window and go, none of it works at the moment. And I think as well, I talk about organic marketing a lot, but it's much easier in romance. Like it really is easier in those genres that have a younger readership. So the other genres are still going to be more reliant on paid ads, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've got my experiment I was doing on the various sort of levels of allowing Facebook to do its Advantage Plus. I didn't get around to finishing it and writing it up last week, but I will do that this week.
Yes.
But they seem to be going well. I've started advertising for SPF, Learn Self-Publishing, again, and they're going well as well. I'm getting sub £1 signups, giving away a free book on writing good hooks in your novels. And that's, we used to pay £4 or £5 sometimes for email addresses. So I am seeing, I know some people complain about ads at the moment, but I'm seeing actually is more buoyant at the moment. But anyway, there you go. I am really focusing on the creative as that's the number one thing. And I'm allowing Facebook to do more and more of the other stuff, which I think is probably the way forward. Okay. All right. Should we come on to our announcement then?
We should. I'm excited.
So I put the Self-Publishing Show podcast on hiatus a little while back. It became a very unwieldy podcast. It took 6 people to get it on air every week. I had to record a separate interview. I had to sort of batch record them, but it took a lot of my week. And I didn't. So in the end, I'm really proud of what we did over that period of time. But I'll be honest, I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. It felt like a chore. And doing an interview with somebody who I didn't know at that stage. I mean, I've got some best friends from some of those interviewees, but over the years. But you have to do research. You have to at least skim read a book. There's a lot of work that went into it, and I couldn't do it anymore. So we stopped it. We put it on hiatus. And I wanted to start something new and fresh that felt different. Now is the time, for various reasons, to go back into the SPF brand and family. So the Self-Publishing Show, which is the brand for the conference and to bring things together. So I am going to resurrect the Self-Publishing Show podcast. It's going to come back and I'm going to have a new co-host. Do you know who that is, Cara? It's you. You're my new co-host.
Yay! God, it would have been so awkward if you said it was someone else.
Yeah. So we're going to bring this podcast, which I enjoy doing, which is low maintenance, that we just chew the breeze a little bit. We are going to have guests. We've had Sissy Mecca the other week. We're going to have guests. I've got a couple lined up in the future. In fact, let's get Abby Patrick on soon as well. She can tell us what 22-year-olds are thinking to answer those questions. But I'm only going to have people who can join the conversation.
Yes.
So there's a guy called Dr. Phil at Spoken. I was chatting to him. I think he'd be a good one. People who can just become a third wheel for that podcast, chew the breeze over things, and talk about what they want to talk about. I'm not doing here's the interview now, and the interview starts. There was the interview stops. I'm not doing that anymore. So we're going to do that. We won't always have an interview. We'll still be us, you and me mainly. But that's going to happen. I think realistically it's going to happen in December now, and I'm going to record a new episode of the podcast. But the good news is there's thousands of people subscribed to that podcast, and they don't.
Yes.
And I was talking to Joe Penn about this, and we pointed out that, they don't proactively unsubscribe from a podcast whilst it's not running. It's just sat there. They wouldn't know to unsubscribe, or don't even know they're subscribed. So basically, this podcast is going to appear on people's inboxes. So what will happen to the Indie Writers Club? So I don't want to lose the Indie Writers Club. I love our little community. I absolutely adored our retreat and the group of friends we have on our Q&A as well. So I think what I'm going to say is that the Indie Writers Club is going to become like a next level club within the self-publishing show. So for those people who want to be a bit more engaged, follow a bit more closely, go on writers' retreats, have the live Q&As. We'll do it probably through the Patreon or something like that. So it'll be a little club that people join. Everyone who's in it now will be in it, and we'll do stuff separate. In fact, I might even release the podcast early to them so they get it on Patreon a day or two before.
Well, that's a nice idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. But I think that by bringing it back under, it was the most sensible thing to do, because it means we're going to have more resources, a bigger audience, which is going to be better for everybody. And we're still going to keep, like you said, our friends that we've built up over the last year that we've been doing the podcast as the Indie Writers Club.
Yeah. And I'm delighted to say that Pro Writing Aid have extended their sponsorship of the show. They know that it's going to become a self-publishing show, and they're happy about that.
Yay!
So they've extended for another 6 months after that comes to an end at the end of this month. So that's really exciting for me. I'm very grateful to Tom and Chris.
It's a complete head spin for me, because my goal when I started writing was, because I listened to the Self-Publishing Show podcast every week, and my goal was one day I will be interviewed by James Blatch, and then I'll know that I've made it. And then you interviewed me, and then we started our own podcast together, and now I'm going to be on the original podcast. It's very bizarre. Very, very bizarre, but lovely.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So there's a bit of technical work to do in the background, and I guess we'll probably run it in parallel for a few weeks just so people don't miss it. But in each episode, we'll remind people to go over and subscribe to the Self-Publishing Show if they're not already. And Indie Writers Club, we will work out all these details, but it'll be the Discord, it'll be the Patreon lives, it'll be the writing retreat invitations. It'll be meetups, so we'll try and do some meetups as well. Certainly at Self-Publishing Show, we'll have an IWC meetup. So there'll be people who just want a bit of a community and want to be a bit closer to asking questions of each other and that sort of thing. So,
yeah, very exciting. Yes, I've been like, are we going to announce it yet? Can we tell people yet?
Yeah, we can tell people.
It's going to be. Yes, I'm excited. It's going to be great, and it'll be nice for it to happen before Christmas.
Yeah. Right. Well, I need to do that Facebook ads experiment, finish that off, and then I need to go and find a supermarket because I've just arrived and I've got one bottle of water. Do you know what? Things are so expensive in America. I was in Vegas. I completely expected it. You paid like $12-13 just for a small beer everywhere, and eating out was colossally expensive. But I'm now in kind of regular America, like Florida, and I went and bought a bottle of water, quite a big bottle of water, but that's smart water, and a fruit cup. Have I got that here? No, I've thrown it away. That big. $15 for those two items.
Wow.
Where's that come from? How can that possibly be $15 for a bottle of water and a fruit cup?
I mean, yeah, all I have in my head is Vegas prices, which is making me go, yeah.
I'd expect that in Vegas. Wouldn't bat an eyelid in Vegas. But the pizza last night was $18, which was not too bad. Anyway.
We're getting into James's Moan of the Week territory.
Moan of the Week, yes. To finish her off. It was expensive in the UK. Things are expensive in the UK, and they're getting expensive in America. And just, this is not taking any one-sided politics, but that's not sustainable in the long run for people. It's not fair. We need to be able to live. Okay, there we go. Rant over.
And on that note...
On that bombshell.
All right, well, who knows where you'll be when we podcast next week. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, I think I might be home. I'm going to go on this cruise. Maybe we have to do it before then. I'll have to work out the dates. All that to be worked out.
Yes, please work it out and inform me.
All right. See you next week.
All right, see you soon.
Support the podcast and get exclusive access by joining our Patreon. From just $1 an episode, you'll be invited to our Discord server, where the weekly discussion continues every day. And our 2 top tiers include a monthly live Q&A with James and Cara. Head to indiewritersclub.com/support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you next Friday.
The Indie Writers Club podcast is sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. Built by writers for writers, Pro Writing Aid doesn't just check spelling and grammar. It helps you enhance your story's pacing, plot, characters, settings, and more. Now it can even provide on-demand developmental feedback on your entire manuscript with its manuscript analysis and virtual beta reader tools. Give your writing a competitive advantage by heading to prowritingaid.com. You can also sign up for free or use the code IWC15 for a 15% discount off annual subscriptions.